Folks, we've been blessed with a whole lot of TV to start this year off. Let's dive into some of it. I'm going to talk about this in, I have 4 shows that I've finished, new releases that I've finished this year. Kaleidoscope was a long time ago. I don't really feel like talking about it, so I'm going to talk about the 3 newer releases in order of which I like the least to the best. Fair disclaimer quickly, in case I forget to do ratings for them, which I do more than I would like to. I liked all of these shows, just to varying extents. And so I guess I'll start out with Swarm, which you may have heard of. It's a new show on Amazon Prime, dropped literally just this past Friday, and I liked it. I think that the premise in general is very interesting. If you don't know about it, it's about sort of the stan culture in our society, where people form these parasocial relationships with celebrities, and in this case, a girl forms a parasocial relationship with a singer, a popular singer. And I don't want to spoil anything about it, but obviously it gets pretty wild from there. And obviously it's a bit of, and not a bit, it's a very dramatic and hyper-sensitized version of stan culture. Because the entire premise, I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, is that she sort of gets a little homicidal in relation to her, obsession with this singer. And so, yeah, I think that fundamental premise is something interesting and as of yet unexplored in our society. It's a very short series, only 7 episodes, and each episode, I like this, has the main character in a different situation. And I thought that definitely livened it up a little bit. It made each episode a little more interesting, because otherwise I think it could have gotten repetitive. And then some of these episodes obviously are a little more unique and stand out more than some of the others, just because they have, pretty specific scenarios. I'm thinking of an episode like episode 4, where she's going to a music festival and she ends up getting roped into this house full of other girls. And so that is sort of an episode on its own, and that one stands out for quite a few reasons, but because it's also just such an interesting concept and different from a lot of the other episodes. If I had to say one thing that I just didn't love, it would be, I think it makes some stylistic choices that didn't always sit with me. They weren't bad by any means. I don't think the show is poorly made at all whatsoever. I think it's quite a well-made show, and one that people should watch, if for no other reason than to generate conversation around stan culture in our society, among other issues that the show tackles. But it's a very entertaining watch. And I guess the thing that most impressed me, I would say, is 1, the supporting cast, because almost every single person is fantastic. We're talking about the girlfriend in the last episode. We're talking about her sister, Chloe Bailey. We're talking about Billie Eilish gets a cameo, in case you didn't know, and she is very good in the show. There are a lot of people here who, despite not having, recurring roles in the series, stand out and make the most of the time that they have. But undeniably, the standout here is Dominique Fishback as the main character, whose name I am forgetting at the moment, but she is tremendous. I've seen her before. She's been good before, but this is a whole new level of acting that I've seen from her. And what a talent. It was a truly phenomenal performance with so many different layers. It works comedically. It works intensely. Just such a phenomenal representation of this character in all of the emotions that they feel at any given time. A genuinely almost perfect performance. It is very, very, very good. For 7 episodes straight, she is phenomenal. And if she wasn't this good, I don't even know if I'd like the show that much. Just because it's not my kind of thing always. Again, it's well made, well written, it can be funny, it's short, but she just knocks it out of the park completely. takes the material and runs with it as far as anybody could possibly run with it. A genuinely breathtaking performance. And that's really all my thoughts on Swarm. I did like it. I didn't love it. I'm going to give it a B for now, but it is a high B. Because again, just some of the stylistic choices just didn't resonate with me personally. I actually will say that I do think the drop it all at once model probably hindered my enjoyment of the show. I think maybe if I were able to take it one episode at a time for 7 or so weeks, that I would be able to process and sit with it more. And it probably could have a longer stay in society. I have a feeling that this will unfortunately probably be forgotten very soon, if anybody watches it in the first place, when it probably could have had a longer window of being talked about, and maybe some word of mouth could be generated outside of how much people like the show week to week. So unfortunately, this is probably going to go underrated because I did like it. I didn't love it. It's going to be a high B. And then let's talk about Poker Face, which is a show I was destined to love from the start. Rian Johnson, obviously the creator of Knives Out, Glass Onion, back with a murder mystery of the week show. What's not to like? I'll say first, since we're on the subject of great actresses, Natasha Lyonne is very good, very entertaining, perfect embodiment of Charlie Cale. Like, it was just so much fun to tune in week after week to watch this character. And I guess something that Rian Johnson has established is that mysteries are only as good as the cast you have around them. And that obviously includes the ensemble, which is probably the most important part, but it definitely includes the detective, which is why Benoit Blanc is such a personality, and now Charlie Cale is such a personality of her own. Each episode has its own cast, right? Because it's a murder mystery of the week kind of thing. They have their own ensemble. Some of them are really good. You know, you're getting a lot of actors. You're getting new actors, you're getting old actors, and some impress me more than others. But I think for the most part, you know, they all worked well. They worked well within their own little situations. And then I guess I'll just tackle the situations now, because again, each episode here is almost entirely contained. There is an overarching story that connects through most of the episodes, but each episode here deals with its own murder, its own victim, its own, you know, suspect, yada, yada. And I think that's an interesting approach to take. And in season 1, for the most part, it worked for me. I liked most of the premises. I resonated with most of them. I found most of them entertaining. There were a few that I was not the biggest fan of. And my main concern for this show going forward is that it could get a little repetitive. I trust them. I think that they'll be able to find constant, new, fun ways to approach the idea of a murder with new, fun motives, with new, fun victims, with new, fun killers, and with new, fun settings, which is really what the show needs to thrive and succeed. And in season 1, for the most part, it did that. I liked every single episode here, and most of that comes down to the premise and the cast that we're working with. I am absolutely thrilled at the news that Poker Face is getting renewed for season 2. Very excited to tune back into that, because the show isn't prestige television. It's not excellent, but it is very entertaining, and it knows exactly what it wants to be, and I have immense respect for it for that reason. It was a whole lot of fun. Rian Johnson was behind it, so I found, again, I don't know how much of a process, how much of a role he played in every episode, but I thought the writing was very clever for the most part, and very entertaining. It's fun, it's funny. What is not to like, truly? I just don't know how anybody could not like this show, unless you don't like mysteries or something. And then I also just want to touch, I guess, on the fact that the thing that is holding this back from being excellent, which again, it's not trying to be, it doesn't need to be, is that it's a formula. It's a formula, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with having that formula, but each episode begins with us seeing the murder. We see the victim, we see the killer, we see how the murder plays out. There are gaps in that knowledge that will come to be filled in as Charlie Cale does some digging, but that is the basic premise. We always know the murderer, we always know the victim, how they died. I think, unless I'm getting something wrong, and then hopefully one of you will correct me. And it's fun to watch Charlie unravel it bit by bit and pick up pieces on our own. And again, that's why I like the show. But I just don't know how much longer that could work. I don't know how many seasons of that kind of formula we can get. Again, unless the premises and the actors just really make it entertaining on their own, which is possible. I guess we'll have to see. So I liked Poker Face. I have a few issues with it, but it's nothing. They're not even issues necessarily. It's just potential concerns for the future. Because the good episodes here, really, really good stuff. I like the barbecue episode. I like the Shit Mountain episode. I like the casino episode. I like a whole bunch of them. Because who could not like the premise? So I will say that if you have not seen this show, if you've heard of it or something, please just check it out. It's free on Peacock. You'll have to watch with ads, which is what I did, but it is free. You don't have to spend a cent to watch this. You make your own account. I know nobody wants Peacock. It's irrelevant, yada, yada. It's worth it just for this show, okay? I like the show. And if you like Glass Onion, if you like Knives Out, if you like Rian Johnson, if you like mysteries, if you like fun, you'll like Poker Face. 10 episodes, all of them fun, all of them inventive. Check it out. That's my advice to you. And I'm excited and waiting patiently for season 2. Poker Face is going to be a very solid A. And then I will talk about The Last of Us. And The Last of Us has been a very weird experience for me because, like a lot of people, I played the games. I'm more familiar with the games, and the games aren't my favorite. I do like both, just because I'm not a big fan of that style of gameplay. But I have always found the stories that both games told, and especially the second, to be very, very good. They are good not only because they're entertaining, because they do something new with the zombie formula, but because they are thought-provoking. And the best stories, in my mind, make you think, and they make you question things, and they make you dissect yourself and struggle with a moral question. I'm a huge philosophy guy, and that is what both Last of Us games really dive into repeatedly. Every single scenario that Joel and Ellie find themselves in the games, but I guess especially the show here, has a moral quandary that you can ponder. But I guess I finally know what people mean when they say, I read you read the books for something first. You read the books for Game of Thrones and then you watch the show. It's very weird just to see a different version of something you've already seen. Because even though there are changes to the show, it's still very much the same story with the same characters. And so it was just a bit odd to sort of try to separate the game and the show as two different entities. And so for that reason, for as good as the show was, for as much as I liked it, it will never be great to me. And there will always be the what if of, if I had watched the show first, would I have resonated with this material the same way that I did with the game? And the answer is probably yes, because it's a very well-made show. It's clearly having that impact on a lot of people that haven't played the games. But there are some things that will just always hold me back. For example, Pedro Pascal, great. I like the actor a lot. Bella Ramsey, great. The guy who plays David, great. The woman who plays, what's her name? Tess, great. But there's just something about the game characters. There's something about the game version of Joel and the game version of Ellie and their relationship that I just don't know can ever be replicated for me. And my biggest problem with the show is that you can't play it. Some of the moments in the show that are supposed to be big and feel big just didn't, because you don't play them. You're not experiencing it for yourself necessarily. I know that sounds weird, but I cannot tell you how much more of an impact it had on me to have to actually go through the hospital and kill everybody. I cannot tell you how much more of an impact it had on me that when Joel gets, spoilers by the way, sorry, spoilers, that when Joel gets injured in the show, he just gets stabbed, by the way, which is pretty lame. But when he falls off the balcony in that hospital and lands on a pole, I actually felt like my journey might really be over. And the biggest example of this is the whole David thing where Ellie is running away from him in the restaurant. I was scared shitless having to play that. I felt like Ellie. I was like, nope, I'm not playing this. I put the controller down. I said, I'm not doing this. Because they did, first of all, they did such a good job making that mission. And the restaurant's just on fire. And it's good in the show. It's well created. Again, I don't know that you can do it better than they did. They did a phenomenal job. But you just can't replicate the feeling of having to play that moment and experience it for yourself. Sorry, that's just the reality of it. And it's why video game adaptations I'm mostly okay with, just because I like the fact that more people get to experience these stories who otherwise just wouldn't. But there is something inherent to a lot of these games that make them special in the video game format that you can't replicate. You really can't. And I will say, The Last of Us does the absolute best it can. And I will say, I think a lot of people have shared this sentiment. The show is at its best when it's making new stories. Episode 3 with Bill and, what's his name? I was going to say Ted. Bill, or whatever, his boyfriend. Such a gut-wrenching episode. So beautiful. A love story in the apocalypse, something that we didn't see in the games, that wouldn't work in the games. This is the kind of thing that only works in a television or movie format, because you can't play through a love story, really, right? You can't play through a little self-contained love story about two characters that aren't even the main focus of our story, and yet the show does it, and it's great for that reason. And my favorite part of the show, a lot of people's favorite part of the show, I've heard this again, was the little cold opens that they did at the beginning. Specifically that first one, the entire show opens up on this interview with a doctor that is just so eerie and really a perfect scene that sets the stage for the show. And it's new content. And also with the doctor in Jakarta, just great backstory stuff that the show was able to add. And it has, it has the advantage of coming after the game because it can take what works from the game and it can add on to that or remove from that. It has the baseline. And so I think it succeeds on that front as an adaptation. And then if we want to, I've already talked about the acting. It's all good. Still doesn't compare to the game for me, but that is a high bar. But every aspect of the show is great. And it's a high quality production on every level. The sets are fantastic. The cinematography is really, really good stuff. I'm a fan of the show. And I will say that I am most certainly excited for future seasons. One, because I know where The Last of Us 2 is going, and I'm thrilled to see what the public's reaction to it is going to be. And two, because they said, actually more than two, they said that they're splitting up the second game into multiple seasons. It's not just going to be one story, which is a decision I respect because it's a longer game and I would prefer they not shrink it and confine it. But I am curious to see how they go about that. I don't know where they're going to split it. I don't know if they're going to add anything to that story or anything like that. And that gets me excited because, again, I've played the game. Playing the game will probably always impact me more than watching the show unless they add new things or change anything. So I am excited to see what they change. And then also, I'm getting potentially excited, long way down the line, but about them having a season 3 or beyond, or season 4, beyond what the games have explored. Game of Thrones style. They make their own story up beyond what already exists for them to build off of. And that gets me excited because it's a story that I will not know. It's a story I will be experiencing with everyone else for the first time. So I'm excited for that. I think that's about everything I have to say. Very good show. I obviously liked it more than the other two shows because I'm speaking about it last. But I'm sorry. It can never be a great show to me just because I already know the story. I've already played it and it already impacted me more in the game version, in the video game version. But I am very glad that people are having the opportunity to experience it. And it is a very well-made show that I still enjoyed. It's going to be an A. So folks, that'll be it for television right now, although not for long. I'm currently watching The Bad Batch. Don't get me started. I'm currently watching The Mandalorian. Do get me started. I'm watching Ted Lasso just as of last week because the first episode dropped. I am watching Perry Mason on HBO, and I will be watching Succession and Yellow Jackets come this Sunday. Not this Sunday that I'm filming on, next Sunday, but you knew that. TV is fantastic, and I'm thinking about doing a video essay on it of sorts on my other channel, which you can check out if you want. EDPC Productions, where I'm going to start focusing on that kind of content more, and I'm going to tackle hopefully television recently in the state it's been in. But I have to say, I'm very impressed with TV so far. We've already just started the year, and we've got some great television, as evident by this video. So folks, check out all 3 of the shows I mentioned if you haven't, because I really would recommend all of them. They're all good in their own right. They're all entertaining, and they all have something for you to chew on or enjoy. So check them all out. Recommend any other shows that are good right now, because I'm always looking for new stuff. And again, TV is just fantastic right now. Let me know your thoughts on my thoughts or your thoughts on the shows themselves, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.